What's up guys, Ivory here, and it's not every day that I make a video like this.
Message!
But we gotta talk about timing when it comes to NFL playoff runs. Just think about it, teams who get hot just at the right time have a history of winning in the playoffs. Look no further than the 2020 Tampa Bay Bucks to see what I'm talking about. They went into a Week 13 bye with an average record of 7-5, then they caught fire and going undefeated all the way to a Super Bowl win over the Chiefs. The 2011 New York Giants, they may be the best example of how getting hot late in the year can lead to a championship. Now that Giants team, they barely made the playoffs. They went like 9-7 that year, but they managed to win the last 3 to 4 regular season games to get into the playoffs. Now the Giants, they ended up winning 4 straight wins to win a title, beating the undefeated Patriots, becoming the only 9-win team to ever win the Super Bowl during the 16-game regular season era. Now while the good teams that have been winning all this year, they definitely want to make some noise and be a factor in the playoffs, but they very well could lose to one of these 5 teams. Now with that in mind, let's take a look at the 5 teams who are firing at all cylinders and are red hot right now in position to make some noise in the playoffs. But before we start, if you find these videos informative or funny or helpful, it will really mean a lot to me if you take a quick second to smash that like button and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already done so. And as a thank you for doing that, here's a picture of an Eagles fan. Thank you. Number 1, the Detroit Lions, my hometown team. The up-and-coming Lions, they did lose last week for only the second time since Week 9. Now, I'm not going to lie, the tough 37-23 loss frustrated their chances of making the playoffs, but the Lions, they may be down, but they're certainly not out. If they can get back on track and win the next 2 games, they could have one of the most unexpected turnarounds in the NFL. Now, it looked like they were going to be the same old Lions everyone has come to know after coming out 1-6. They've actually been balling as of lately. Jared Goff has been doing a great job pushing the ball downfield, orchestrating a high-scoring passing attack. Since Week 9, he's racked up over 2,000 yards while completing 65% of passes with 14 touchdowns. And probably what's most important, he's avoiding turnovers. Just 1 interception in the last 8 games. Goff has done a well enough job that the Lions have already decided to roll on the dice with him next year, regardless of how the team finishes this season. So according to NFL insiders, the Lions do not consider him as a substitute option. They plan to stick with him for his foreseeable future. Now, the Lions, they still have problems to address, mainly on the defensive side, because no team other than the Lions have given up more yardage or points this season. But they are fun to watch, and they're a pretty feisty squad. They have rallied around head coach Dan Campbell and will be a tough out if they secure a playoff berth. Number 2 is the Carolina Panthers. Now, the Panthers' path has been a grind. They started a terrible 1-4 season, then they managed to come back and have a decent squad despite inconsistent quarterback play. They've started this year with Baker Mayfield as quarterback for 5 starts, but then he was benched when he returned from his ankle injury. And eventually they cut him after he failed to impress when given another opportunity later in the season. Then they had a 5-week stint with PJ Walker under center with the backup. He actually got hurt. Then they gave Sam Darnold another opportunity in the quarterback role, despite a bad first season with the team. Now, his second chance has gone far better with him leading the team to a 3-1 record in his 4 starts. Now, while Darnold isn't playing at a Pro Bowl level, he's completing only 61% of his passes for 759 yards and 4 touchdowns. But he's avoided interceptions while doing a decent job. Now, the running game has made Darnold's job a lot easier and is the main reason for Carolina's offensive success. Now, despite trading a superstar back in Christian McCaffrey midway through the season, the Panthers has only managed to improve on the ground. Now, with Week 17 on the coming up, they are averaging a solid 131 rushing yards per game and have scored 16 rushing touchdowns. But I hate to admit this, the team, they're coming off a franchise record with a crazy 320 yards rushing against my team, the Detroit Lions. Now, the Panthers, they still need a few things to break their way in order to get into the playoffs, the most important being winning their Week 17 game against the Buccaneers. Now, the current NFC South leaders at 7-8, the Buccaneers, but their surging rushing attack could help them make some real noise if they get in the playoffs. Number 3 is the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the Bengals look like they're still having a Super Bowl hangover. Now, they were able to shake it off, but they could make a run back to the Super Bowl. Now, they started out with just a 2-3 record before Joe Burrow elevated his play at an MVP level. Joe Burrow has been the key in the Bengals' current 7-game winning streak and has put up some remarkable numbers over the last 10 games. In that time span, Burrow has completed 71% of his passes for 2,900 yards and 25 touchdowns with only 7 interceptions. He's also rushed for 49 times, and he racked up 162 yards for 4 touchdowns. Now, comparing that to his numbers from week 1 through 5, when he completed just 65% of his passes for 1,300 yards and just 9 touchdowns with 5 picks, while rushing for only 23 times, and he had 85 yards and a touchdown. Now, the Bengals have proven themselves against top competition as well. They beat the Kansas City Chiefs in week 13, beating them for the 3rd time in a year, and followed that up with victories over potential playoff matchups in the New England Patriots and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, in addition to winning over the Cleveland Browns. Now, they still have some tough tasks ahead of them, including a must-win week 17 game against the Buffalo Bills. Now, that's an opponent they could face in the AFC Championship game, and the season finale against the Baltimore Ravens, a bitter division rival that already beat them in week 5. Now, if Cincy gets through this stretch untouched and arrive in the playoffs with 9 consecutive wins under their belt, oh my God, it's going to be tough to see how anyone can beat this team. Number 4, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, the Jaguars' transformation from the NFL's laughingstock to a serious contender has been a fast and pretty smooth one. Head coach Doug Peterson has brought stability to an organization that kind of hit rock bottom under Urban Meyer and is striking distance of making the postseason in the first year with the team. The Jaguars have won 3 straight games and 5 of their last 7 heading into week 17. Now, this stark turnaround could not only get them into the playoffs, but also have them hosting a game as AFC South champions. After Jacksonville got off to a 2-6 start, few probably thought that the team would eventually battle back into position to take over the Tennessee Titans for the divisional crown. Crazy. The Jags are now even with the Tennessee Titans in the standings and hold a tiebreaker edge over them because of their head-to-head win victory in week 14. The cool part about this is that these teams will meet again in week 18, a game that could cement Jacksonville's status as AFC South champions and send them to the playoffs for the first time since 2017. While head coach Peterson has provided a steady hand on the sidelines, it's actually been Trevor Lawrence who has been playing really solid. Last year's number 1 pick has developed into a clear-cut franchise quarterback while showing growth nearly every week. Now, he has taken a noticeable leap forward over the last 5 games, completing 67% of his passes and for 1,400 yards, 11 touchdowns with only 1 interception. He's also scored a couple touchdowns running. The Jags defense could use a bit more consistency. They held the New York Jets to just 3 points after allowing the Dallas Cowboys to put that thumper on them, 34 points the prior week. But this team has shown it can get the job done in many other ways. Whether they are exploding on offense or bottling up their opponent defensively, the Jags have finally figured out how to win at the most opportune of times. And last but not least, the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the 49ers had a rocky start, but have since got their act together. Now, in a year in which they hoped to transition to Trey Lance as their starting quarterback, they were forced to go back to Jimmy G after Trey Lance suffered a season-ending ankle injury in week 2. Now, Garoppolo struggled at times with his elevated role, losing 3 of his first 5 starts before helping his team to 4 straight wins. Now, he did get injured early in week 13, forcing the Niners to turn to rookie Brock Purdy. Instead of collapsing with the rookie quarterback, the 49ers actually rallied around him. They are 4-0 in which Purdy has played most of the quarterback snaps and continue to look like a team to be feared. The cool part about this, the Niners haven't lost since October 23rd, with the team holding the longest active winning streak in the league at 8 games. The offense rank in the top 10 in both yardage and points heading into week 17 has exploded since getting late October pickup Christian McCaffrey fully integrated, scoring 33 plus points 3 times in the last 4 games. The 49ers defense have also elevated to a cohesive, well-oiled unit. It hasn't given up more than 20 points since a Week 7 defeat to Kansas City. With Defensive Player of the Year candidate Nick Bosa leading the league in sacks with 17.5, this group will be a nightmare for quarterbacks to deal with in the playoffs. Which one of these teams do you like in the playoffs? Comment below and don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for the latest sports news, and thank you for watching. Ivory out.